Frank Dobbin in year 2005 did a review of argument of historical sociologists and noticed that there were about 4 important changes in the organizations of American firms since the mid-19th century. In each case, sociologists have shown that a change that others explain in terms of efficiency can be traced to power dynamics among different groups. Dobbin asked 4 questions. Number 1, why did the huge manufacturing firm arise in early textile industry and later become dominant? Second, why were so many manufacturing industry consolidated in short order at the beginning of the 20th century? Number 3, why did the diversified conglomerate become the dominant large corporate firm after the Second World War? Number 4, why did the conglomerate give way to the single industry behemoth by the end of the 1990s? From Charles Perrow's work, Organizing America, Wealth, Power, and the Origin of Corporate Capitalism, published in year 2002, Dobbin answered the first questions of the rise of giant firms. Perrow studies big organizations and how they have shaped communities, the distributions of wealth, power, and income, and working life. Referring to the work of William Roy, Socializing Capital, the Rise of Large Industrial Corporation in America, published in 1997, and Naomi Lambero, the work, and then the Great Merger Movement in American business. And Perrow argued that corporate capitalism was entrenched in 5 short years, and when firms were made giant by consolidating the asset of several firms in the same industry. In the work of Perrow, he traces the early rise of huge textile mills and gigantic railroads in America, not to their greater efficiency, but to the fact that the Constitution gave state official little power to regulate industry. The American state, designed as the antithesis of tyrannical European state, had meager administrative capacities and was deliberately open to influence by the very group it might have sought to control. This have invited the powerful to reshape property rights, the law that govern trade and corporate form to their own taste. The American business elite changed property rights to the advantage of big corporations early in the 19th century. Wealthy industrialists won court and legislative decisions giving big corporations all kinds of new advantages over the small ones. In Europe, state protected small firms and regulate large ones. The result in textile was that American mills owners preferred to use capital-intensive rather than labor-intensive production method, even when returns were about the same, because capital-intensive methods made them less dependent on workers and made them more powerful. In moving to a capital-intensive method, textile mills became larger and more powerful, but in the process, they destroyed entrepreneurialism, which was a vibrant alternative source of efficiency. Now, therefore, efficiency argument do not explain the rise of America's first giant businesses. To answer the second question, Dobbin draws insight from the work of William Roy. Socializing Capital, the rise of the large industrial corporation in America, published in 1997. And he argued that power of financial was a key to the rise of manufacturing oligopoly that eventually became the dominant model after the beginnings of the 20th century. Now, under antitrust, a group of small firms could not set prices together, but if they merged, the resulting large firm could set a single price. Roy argued that the advantage big firm had over the small firm was not one of the scale economy, which pays America's preeminent business historian Alfred Chandler. His thesis published in The Invisible Hand, where Chandler contended that firms combined around the turn of the century because it was cheaper to produce things in large numbers. Conversely, Roy argued that the ensuing mergers had little to do with manufacturing efficiency and much to do with the fact that antitrust law put an end to the refuge of small firms, the cartel. The huge concentrated firm was born then of an unanticipated coincidence of public policy and private power. To answer the third question, Dobbin draw on Neil Fleckstein's work, The Transformation of Corporate Control, published in 1990, that traces competition between three different management factions for the leadership of American corporation that include production, marketing, and the finance manager. Fleckstein argued that a power play by financial trained executives was the cause of the rise of the diversified conglomerate between 1950 and 1975. Again, this challenged Alfred Chandler's argument that management naturally became focused on finance and on conglomeration once they had solved the problems of marketing. Fleckstein argued that after amendments of the antitrust in 1950, which made it more difficult for firms to expand into related businesses, finance experts then sketched a new theory of the firm in which large firms should act like investors with diversified portfolio. Portfolio theory in economics reinforce the idea that firms should spread their risk and should invest profit in industry with high growth potential. Finance managers succeeded largely by force of argument, by convincing the boards and investors that the diversified conglomerate was the way of the future, and that they, the finance manager, were uniquely to pursue this model of growth. This group came to hold most CEO positions that make Fleckstein's argument about power and propaganda compelling in the context of Chandler's pure efficiency argument. Is that the diversification model has since given way to the core competence model. New groups have succeeded in promoting corporate form that look suspiciously like the pre-conglomerate form. To answer the fourth question, Dobbin draws on David Fleckstein and colleagues' work to explain why did the diversified conglomerate firm give way to the focused firm operating under the theory of core competence sometimes after 1975. The core argument was that the powerful institutional investors were the cause of the rise of the focus firm. By 1990, the patterns of corporate merger and acquisition has changed radically from that which Fleckstein described in 1970. Big firms were buying firms in other industries to diversify their assets. However, by 1990, big firms were buying others in the same industry to make advantage of their own core competence and their core managerial abilities. This new model arose because institutional investors and securities analysts found the diversified conglomerate difficult to place a value on and assign higher value to single industry firm. As institutional securities holding rose, institutional investors and analysts had increasingly influence over how firms behave through their power to determine the value of stock. At the same time, firms were compensating executives based on stock performance rather than profit. And this gave executives an incentive to cater to investors and analysts. Meanwhile, the invention of the hostile takeover gave a new group, the takeover specialists, the power to break up diversified firms that investors and analysts assign low values to. The result was a change in the corporate strategy as diversified firms struggle to please the market, which means the analyst and the investor. This explanation emphasizes the power of some actors to shape the behavior of others, and particularly the power to define what rational behavior is. The above four studies show that power shapes the rule of the game, and prescriptions for how firms should behave. Power is endemic in this explanation. In each explanation, a network of managers, institutional investors, or financials play big role in defining what is rational.